In last week's episode, we got into some deeper stuff, talking about if you feel like you've really lost your spark and your joy and are just feeling super drained by your job. I walked through 4 R's of what I think you should do and then shared a ton of other podcast episodes that are really helpful to listen to. So definitely be sure to go back and listen to last week's episode if you missed it and if you are feeling like you too have lost your spark. Now, this week's episode is adjacent because we're still going to be encouraging and trying to make you feel positive about where you are in your role right now. But we're going to switch perspectives a bit and just really focus practically and specifically on this last 9 weeks of school that many of you are looking down and how to just finish the year strong mentally and positively for you. I want you to look back on this year and feel good about it and what you've accomplished and how it's gone. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Now, some of you are like, girl, we got way more than 9 weeks left because you started after Labor Day. But if you are like me and you start school the first week of August, that's what we do down here, then this week is officially the beginning of your 4th quarter. So the end is truly in sight, whether you have 9 weeks left or 15, okay? If you have 9 weeks, the countdown might already be on your whiteboard for the end of the year. So I just want to share with you a little pep talk to help you end the year strong and end on a positive note with your students. Let's dive in. This is Secondary Science Simplified, a podcast for secondary science teachers who want to engage their students and simplify their lives. I'm Rebecca Joyner from It's Not Rocket Science. As a high school science teacher turned curriculum writer, I am passionate about helping other science teachers love their jobs, serve their students, and do it all in only 40 hours a week. Are you ready to rock the time you spend in your classroom and actually have a life outside of it? You are in the right place, teacher friend. Let's get to today's episode. So we're going to do 2 things in this episode. First, I want to address the mindset of those of you listening who maybe feel like this year has kind of been a wash, you haven't made a difference, you don't feel like it's been successful, you just kind of been trudging through. And then we're going to end the episode really practically, and I'm going to give you permission to do a lot of things, okay? So first, if you feel like this year's a wash and you've not made any difference in your students' lives, first let me just say it's not too late to change how your students remember this year. You could have the best quarter with them. It could be so fun. It could be so positive. You could really build those relationships. If you haven't gotten to the point where you feel like you've made deep relationships with any students, there is still time. I mean, it's going to go by in a blink, but there is still time to make a difference here and for it to end differently than it started. So if you're feeling like this year's a lost cause, I promise you it's not. Now, adjacent to that, I do want you to kind of reframe or reconsider what is your definition for success. Like if you were going to say this was a successful year, how would you define that? Is it how your students do on their end of course exam? Is it a general feeling you have? Is it what their grades look like? Is it how much of the curriculum you got through? Is it how you made the students feel? Is it just the general vibes you have with the students when the year ends? I don't know, but I do want you to consider what does success look like to you and what steps can I make to move towards success in that way towards the end of the year. And I want to encourage you to potentially reframe your definition of success. I think sometimes if you're like me, you just have these really big, lofty dreams and goals and visions for what will be successful. And you're going to change all these lives and the whole world's going to be different. But there's a great Mother Teresa quote where she says, "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples." And so I want you to consider what's a way that like you can cast a stone and cause some ripples that could change students' lives and change how then they're going to impact the world. That's like one of the coolest things about being a parent and about being a teacher is that you have the opportunity to have exponential impact on the world because you're able to impact all these different lives, even if it's in a really small way. It can be a very small stone, like I said, of simply just building a relationship with these students. If that is all you focus on these next 9 weeks is like creating better relationships with your students, that is a worthwhile way to focus and spend your last 9 weeks. Also, when you're considering your definition of what would make this year a success, consider what matters most. And your definition of success right now could simply be just getting to the end of the year. It could be something bigger than that. Episode 165 is a beginning of the year, like a January 1 type of episode of considering what matters most in this year. But it could apply with these last 9 weeks and this last quarter that you have with your students. So if you need help identifying what matters most right now, give episode 165 a listen. But I really want you to consider what would make the end of the year feel like a success and identify that goal. And then potentially make it even smaller if it's too big. And think about that Mother Teresa quote. And okay, maybe I'm trying to change the whole world or do something so big and I just need to focus on something a little bit smaller and more manageable. And the other thing I want to encourage you with before we get into some really practical things that you can do is I just want to normalize a season of survival. If truly success to you right now is just getting through, that's fine. Your years in this career are all going to look different. Some years, it's going to be about excellence. Other years, it's going to be about endurance. Some years, it's going to be your A++ effort because that's the season of life you're in. Others, we're just hoping to pass, get a D, get that 60% if that's a D where you live. We are going to pass the course. It's a pass-fail situation here. I think that is something I struggle to think about things on an A+ scale, on a percentage scale, when really teaching is a pass-fail situation. You either pass the year or you fail it. And there's so much variety in what passing can look like and the level of passing. But at the end of the day, did you pass or did you fail? And so let's define success so we can see what it takes for this to be a passing year as opposed to a failing year. And let's move towards that. Now that you've had a little mental pep talk, I want to end with practical things. And I want to give you permission to do some things in this last quarter. I say permission because I don't want you to feel pressured. Okay, this is not don't get out your pencil and start making a to-do list of all the things you need to do this last quarter. I'm just going to give you permission as we close for a few things. First, I want to give you permission to stop doing stuff for quarter 4. If you never listened to episode 218, that was at the beginning of this semester. It was 3 things to stop doing this semester. Please go listen to it. If you listened and didn't stop doing any of those things, please consider in this quarter stopping doing stuff. There's 3 really practical ideas there, but I think this is such a unique opportunity. I love trying new things in a set time frame, saying, okay, this isn't forever, but what if I just stopped checking my email during the day, except for once during planning, just for quarter 4 and saw what happened? What if I stopped taking work home just for this quarter and saw what happens? What if I stopped grading everything and just saw what happened? This is such a great opportunity to experiment, and you're a science teacher, so I know you have an experimental brain. That's something you think about. Let's experiment this quarter, okay? Let's stop doing stuff. The second thing I want to give you permission to do is to have fun. Maybe you haven't had a lot of fun in your class this year. Maybe that's a sweet way we could end. Some of my very first podcast episodes I ever did, episodes 12 through 15, are all about the spring and just kind of dealing with senioritis and how you end the year well with students and having fun with them. And I give you a lot of ideas there. Episode 18 also gives you some ideas for what to do after spring testing. I know some of you are like, we cannot have fun because we've got an EOC or we've got an AP exam or we've got the STAR exam or whatever it is. But episode 18 gives you some fun ideas for after that exam. What do you do at that time? What can that look like? I'll also link an episode about reviewing for those standardized tests if you need some ideas for that. But consider how you could have fun. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to go back and listen to all those ancient episodes of mine, could you even just do some things outside? Get out in the sunshine, change things up. Could you bring in a guest speaker for the end of the year? What are some ways you could maybe have some fun with your students? I love my biology scope and sequence. I'll link that episode where I walk through the rationale why I do it. But I love the way I've arranged teaching biology because I always ended the year with ecology. There's so many fun hands-on labs for that. But also we get to do ecosystem in a bottle, which is one of my favorite long-term investigations ever. You can find 1,000 different versions of this on Google, but I do have one in my resource shop that I can link for you. But It is such a fun way to end the year, and all the students get so engaged, and it's just the best. It's one of those that like my students look back and they all talked about it for years. It's one where when I was on maternity leave, when we adopted my oldest, like the students were like, are we going to still get to do ecosystem in a bottle? Because I had a non-science sub. I actually had 3 long-term subs split my course load because it was so insane. And I came back with like a newborn baby strapped to me on ecosystem in a bottle setup day to like help them do it because they were all so scared they weren't going to be able to do it. Okay. So have some fun. Like, what is it that you could do that could be fun with your students this year that would make you look forward to it? Maybe it's trying a new long-term research project. Maybe you've never done anything like that before and you're going to say, bump it. We're not going to get through all the standards this year. We're going to do this instead and see what happens and see if we can have fun doing it. I don't know what that looks like. I will link a bunch of different options that I have in the show notes and you can check those out. What could you stop doing and how could you start having some fun in this quarter? And the last thing I want to encourage you to do practically is something I've kind of already mentioned, but it's just to try something new. Set a new boundary. Test out a new lab. Try open note tests. I don't know. See what happens, how that goes for your students. Try eliminating all tech and see if that changes the culture of your classroom. Try doing a prime time to start off your class periods. Try removing grading labs in any capacity. Like not just a lab report, but what if we just didn't grade labs at all? And we just did them and they were just fully experiential learning experiences. I know that's redundant, but I don't know what to say. Like it was just truly about engaging and getting the skills and experiencing it and not about grading it and what they got for it and what they wrote down on the paper. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like for you. I don't know what kind of sparks some intrigue as I list out these different things. But this is such a great time to try something new, to have some fun and to stop doing something. And you're doing it for this limited amount of time, just this quarter, and experimenting with it. And maybe you'll find that, wow, my classroom culture is really different when I do this. Or, oh, look, their grades are not harmed because I stopped grading all the things. Oh, look, they're actually more successful on the test when they're able to access their notes and I can still see that they learn the content. Or, I don't know what it is for you. Or, oh, look, I set a boundary and no one died. Everything's fine. Everyone's grades worked okay, even though I didn't bring papers home to grade. Everyone still passed my class who deserved to pass my class or whatever it may be. Oh, look, people didn't go to the emergency room because I didn't check my email at 9 p.m. at night. Okay. So I don't know what it looks like for you, but I really want you to consider trying something new and testing it out. And so your take-home challenge today is I want you to think about this. I want you to think about something you want to stop doing, a way that you want to have fun, or something new you want to try this final quarter. And I want to know, I would love if you would DM me on Instagram at It's Not Rocket Science and tell me so I can just be like rooting for you and hear about it. And then I would love it then, you follow up with me at the end of your school year and say, hey, here's how it went. It would mean so much to me to hear from you. And I would just be so excited. And if you need further motivation, the day this episode airs, it's my birthday. And so maybe this is your birthday present to me is to reach out and tell me what you're going to try, because that would just be so encouraging for me to hear from you. So I mentioned a lot of resources and podcast episodes and other things to check out. As always, those will be linked in my show notes at itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/episode 227. And I will also link the application that you can fill out to come and be a guest on the podcast, to talk to me, to share your teaching experience, what's working well for you. One cool thing too is like, hey, maybe you try one of these things just for a couple weeks. And then you're like, oh, I want to share about how it went. Apply to be on the podcast and you can come on and share about it. I would love to talk to you. That application's at bit.ly/SSS-guest. All right, teacher friends, that wraps up today's episode. If you're looking for an easy way to start simplifying your life as a secondary science teacher, head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge to grab your classroom reset challenge. And guess what? It's totally free. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week. Until then, I'll be rooting for you, teacher friend.